The Next Level is a group of theater geeks playing Dungeons and Dragons. Here is your Dungeon Master, Rob Card.
Hello and welcome to the Next Level recap. So this is session 3. We're doing this online now. I'm using some video conferencing to make sure that everyone can still get together in these interesting times. And it was an interesting session as well. So began with right off the top a strange shadow ogre attacking the group while they had just gone to sleep. The two on watch were quick to react, and even though the ogre set off the alarm spell that Leon had set up, Tor and Mint were relatively able to deal with it on their own, with a bit of help from the others. However, the terrifying creature had left some bad memories and some nightmares in store for some of the group, and Tor, Talon, and Leon did not sleep particularly well that night, waking up exhausted the next day. However, Jacob did not wake up at all the next day. He seemed rested and healed, but out cold, sleeping, just resting. The group didn't quite know what to make of it. No one could wake him, so he had to be carried by Torok. And when Leon cast Detect Magic to see if there was any threats around them, found out that Jacob was emanating enchantment magic. Something was happening to him. So they stopped and tried to figure out what. Leon managed to figure out that it had something to do with divine energies, but couldn't figure out much more than that. They traveled for the day. Some rain picked up and sort of created some miserable conditions as they traveled through the dark and damp forest. But it meant they were all fairly tired for that night and slept well that night as well. The next day, traveled further into the forest. Jacob was still out cold, still sleeping, not able to be woken. And finally, they came to an odd-looking game trail. Odd because it was maybe just a little too open, a little too almost uniform in its look, a little too straight, although it actually had a bit of a curve to it, but it was more of a perfect curve, as if it was part of some larger circle. And the marks, the animal tracks that were found were mostly hoof prints from a horse, which could be wild in the forest, but did seem a little strange. And around some of the hoof prints, it was sort of charred, as if by fire. And just about then, a white rabbit in a fancy vest ran across the game trail not that far away, and said something about being late. Gildy was a little thrown by this, but then the entire group was thrown into combat as a shadow nightmare and rider came riding around on that exact trail. The fight was quick and furious, with the rider teleporting around, chasing after Leon, or trying to ambush the party. In the end, they defeated the two fiends, but Leon had used some magic to kill the horse and seemed confused and upset by this. When asked why, Leon wanted to know if these beasts had been sentient. But once they established that the creatures had been fiends, Leon seemed to calm down a little bit. They took a short rest, and there was a bit of debate as to whether they should follow the white rabbit or continue on their path that they had been following. They decided to continue the path they had been following, but just 50 feet further on from that game trail, they came to a strange wall of impenetrable darkness. It too seemed to be sort of a large circle or dome, perhaps, rising into the air. Gildy was uncertain Gildy was certain that this was exactly what they were looking for. This was where the person had been taken, but they'd have to get beyond it somehow. There was more discussion on what to do. During the discussion, they heard another rider on that track come and go, so they were wary about being sort of too close to the track and too close to the wall. In the end, Gildy tried to experiment with the wall and reached out to touch it, but when she did, she got sucked into whatever this is and passed through to the other side. As a side note, the rabbit had passed through the wall just before then. That's where we left off. We'll see what happens with the group next time, and I'll see you again next time on the next level.